Yeah, lost. I think that's a pretty appropriate word. What's up, guys? That guy with a pencil here. Fun fact, I do mean to have it on and keep it on me at all times. And another fun fact, here we are, for me, to give you my thoughts on Sakamoto Days in its current state as we seem to be entering and or already started the final arc, the final big bad battle. We got a lot to talk about, and because some people think that the yaps are a little too short, but I don't want to make them too long, I will be increasing the time to 15 minutes instead of just the regular 10. We'll see how this goes, we'll see how much I like it, we'll see how much I don't. So let's hop right into it. 15 minutes, where are you? Let's do it right now! Okay, so I said Sakamoto Days feels a little bit lost, but mainly I don't really mean that. I mean Sakamoto Days feels a teeny, tiny, itty, bitty bit hollow, lost. I feel like lost is the best word actually. I think about it, mainly because I don't know what Suzuki Sensei's cooking, but not in a good way. And you may be wondering, Pencil Man, what on earth does that mean? And I mean, we're in the final battle, right? We're in the final arc. We're done. We're wrapping up Sakamoto Days now, which is actually kind of crazy to me because I feel like it was a recent interview where Suzuki Sensei said, I have so many more ideas I have for this manga, so I don't want it to end anytime soon. But now apparently we are ending. This was confirmed by Shonen Jump itself that we're kind of in the final arc. I don't think this is because Sakamoto Days is getting axed. I think it's legit just Suzuki Sensei being like, you know what, I'm kind of done. Mainly because Sakamoto Days is still doing very, very well. No matter how many issues that I and many others have with it, it still is performing really, really well. I think it's like either always number 3 or number 4. It's always at the top of the charts. It's never at the top 5. And sometimes it is like even top 1. And it's still been getting color pages. It's still been the lead of Shonen Jump. It's still been doing buku crazy numbers, but still, it's not been hitting the same way I think it's supposed to be hitting for Gotomoto Days, and I think I know why. It's because Suzuki Sensei kinda can't commit to a bit in comparison to how they used to commit to a bit. Now you'd be wondering, what on earth are you talking about, Pencil Man? And I'm saying it's the idea that not only are there minimal stakes, we've had this discussion many times before, there just don't seem to be many stakes in the manga anymore, but that's fine, it's a Shonen Jump manga, we can accept that, but it's not just the fact that there are little stakes, it's the fact that we are in narrative kind of feeling like there are no stakes, on top of the idea that no characters are getting time. Obviously, the most recent example of this is chapter 223 and 224. We committed to the idea of Oki versus Nagamo. This was a very interesting conflict that is built in the narrative of the series, Oki being the leader of the old order, now the sub-leader of the new order, and obviously Nagamo being a character from the beginning of the manga being super important, and kind of the pseudo-leader of our new group that's fighting against the new order. So obviously a battle between these two is very, very important, very, very interesting, very, very hefty, very, very core to the narrative. So tell me why we cut away from it halfway through the chapter to introduce some randoms. And don't get me wrong, this would be perfectly fine if 1, the manga wasn't ending, and 2, if we hadn't set up a completely more interesting battle. I'm sorry, I don't care about random policeman. I'm sorry, I don't care about random slaughter mommy. I'm sorry, I don't care about random twins. I don't, they're irrelevant. And as much as I did like the concept of the guy, I don't care about random luchador man. What I would care about is committing to the bit. I would care to see Nagamo versus Gaku, because Nagamo has a very bad habit of starting a really cool fight and then ending off screen. And obviously, who knows? We're currently on break at the time of recording this. There could be a chapter where we cut back to Nagamo versus Oki. We will probably see the end of that fight. But that's why I'm talking about the main issue that Sakamoto Days has right now. The reason it feels so lost is because it refuses to commit to a bit. Obviously, we had the previous pseudo arc, which I would say is the aquarium arc, where we had everybody jump Shin. That was committing to a bit, kind of, sort of, except nothing happened. Wow, look at our entire villain cast showing up to jump our dude Aragnis. Nothing happened. You may be like, well, Pencil Man, Sakamoto himself, he got cooked at the end of that arc. Oh, no! But Sakamoto himself, he got cooked at the end of that arc. Look at him right now. He's currently in the Shadow Realm with Rion. That's why I said, nothing happened. He's fine. He's, in fact, in the same spot where he was before. He was a guy who couldn't fight. That was the character arc we had committed to, but actually, no, he actually can come out and fight for a little bit, so we aren't actually going to commit to that bit. Actually, though, we're going to immediately remove him from the narrative again, but we won't actually boom the guy. We're going to send him into the Shadow Realm for a little bit. So, what? That's the thing. We're doing so much at once that none of it's sticking. And notably, don't get me wrong, Sakamoto Days was always a series that was doing a lot. It was definitely, I could definitely even see the earlier arguments where it felt like Suzuki Sensei would pull out a dartboard, attach a whole bunch of ideas to it, and just throw dart after dart after dart after dart, and then we would just do thing thing from the JCC arc to the museum arc to the in-between arcs, all in between. Obviously the International Assassins arc. There are so many different things where we were hopping around, but at least it felt like in moments we would heavily commit to something. The museum arc is, I think, the longest arc in the series, but the benefit of that is that we got to really steep in that moment, really feel what it was like. But currently, we don't have time to get attached to anything or anybody. The last fully real established character was Taurus. And he was introduced maybe 40 chapters ago, maybe 45. And even then, he's only really developed in my mind because I like him. That is it. I can't even really say he's the deepest or most complex of characters, but all we got is my glorious, handsome, legendary, juicy, scrawny, unctuous King Taurus. And notably, he doesn't even appear consistently, because he shows up at the end of the chapter, and then we don't see him again. But here's another victim of, we keep introducing more characters, we're not committing to anything, we can't elaborate on these characters or give them anything to do. Gozu. One of the coolest, if not in my opinion, low-key the coolest design in all of Sakamotodays. Kind of by a long shot. I love the beads, I love the tank top, I love the hair, I love the fur, everything. And obviously, electrical power is really, really cool. Gozu's not a character, though. And notably, he was the last member of the Alchemar Kids to be introduced. Tenkyu, no idea where he is. Another example of not coming to a bit. But still, regardless, Gozu was the last guy. Built up to insanity, has done nothing. Has done nothing but ore farm and fight harm top tiers. And unfortunately, that's not enough. These new characters here, I don't care about them. Atari, a character who was introduced, once again, maybe like 30-ish chapters ago, right at the start of the prison arc, and I just don't care. I don't care. And she feels weird. And notably, in the little time we had of her, since we cannot commit to a bit for this character, she was one way, and then now is this way, and it just doesn't mix. Nothing is sticking. It is really like Sakamoto is throwing everything at the wall at once, but where before, we would have Suzuki-sensei walk up to the dartboard, look at the idea that was hit, elaborate it, yank out the dart, sketch it out, really get deep into the depths and the inner workings of it. Now we're kind of just zooming and booming. And don't get me wrong, I am okay with fast-paced storytelling. So, well, I was going to say Sakamoto in general, and that is true, but Sakamoto in general has always kind of been a fast-paced narrative. Even if not much was technically happening in the grand scheme of things, it was always a fast-paced narrative. But it now has gotten to a point where the speed is so blistering that nothing is sticking. Nothing is registering. And I feel like nothing can happen while everything is happening. Because ultimately, while I will confidently sit here, look you directly in your eyes and say the narrative has no stakes, I cannot sit here and lie to you and say that nothing has happened. We have introduced 50 new characters. I'm highballing it. It's like 12. But still, we've introduced 12 new characters in 50 chapters. Have they done anything? But still, that's a lot. I can't say that Sakamoto Days is the same as it was even 30 chapters ago. From the new Luchador Man to this battle being set up at the end of 224, gosh darn it, 224 of Heisuke versus Kumanomi, getting the rematch there. Obviously, we did have the entire Shin versus the entire main villain casting. Like, a lot of stuff has been happening. The Tenkyu fight, Shin backstory, a lot of stuff has happened, but I almost feel detached from it all. And not in the way that you typically feel detached from a narrative, right? Because obviously, narratives are fiction. So thusly, we are not in the fiction. So we will always be at least somewhat detached. But I'm detached from it to the point where I'm like, my eyes are glazing over. Oh, cool, new characters. Can't wait to see them do absolutely nothing. And not even in the sense that they're going to do absolutely nothing, as in they're going to lose to the protagonist. Because shock horror, Shonen Jump manga, antagonists lose to protagonists. Basic storytelling 101. But the fact that I know none of these characters are going to actually get to be characters. We have the names of some of them, but the Luchador Man, who is clearly going to be important to the Kumanomi Heisuke rematch, no name. The twins, I think they have names. Don't care to remember them. Gozu is goated, but like still, he's only goated because of the ore farming. Nothing is here and set in stone, and that's my main issue. And notably, I've already talked about the idea of being lost, but let me directly tackle the other major issue that I have and others have. It's the stakes, right? Notably, I've seen a bunch of videos on this, I've seen a bunch of discussions on this, I've seen back and forth in my own comments over this. So let me talk about the stakes and why I think you can have no stakes, yet have stakes. It's going to be a sort of like walking contradiction and oxymoron, but hear me out. The museum arc had stakes, even though nothing could happen in the museum arc. Now, hear me out. Even though, obviously, things did happen in the museum arc. We lost Gaku, we lost Haruma, we lost Sakamoto. But still, had a certain style to it, a belief that, hey, while these characters have these extraordinary abilities, while they are beyond superhuman, while sort of anything can happen, there was still like a sort of tangible grasp, a logic, something to hold on to that made me believe that characters just wouldn't get away with everything. Ultimately, characters would take damage, characters would be worn out, characters would collapse and fail and fall. The museum arc was kind of the last time I felt like the story did have real, hefty, meaty, juicy, scrumbly emphasis, tangible stakes. But how did it do that? How did it trick me into thinking, oh no, things can happen, and then, things did happen, but at the same time, not having stakes at all, because none of our main characters actually died. Think about it. Obviously, Gaku and Haruma got cooked, so did Sakamoto themselves, but none of those are main characters. They're just two antagonists and a pseudo third party kind of protagonist, antagonist guy. The way it did that was by committing to bits. When Shin ran out of energy, Shin collapsed. Shin did not spontaneously leap up and diff Haruma. Haruma diffed him and Shin gave up and fell over. Even if Haruma collapsed later, he still won that fight. Sakamoto was not able to solo hard carry. It was actually kind of a Nagamo hard carry throughout that arc, and even then, he was going high diff with Gaku. And you could see Nagamo taking damage, getting worn down, feeling this. And obviously, Takamura came in after the fact and was smacking and swinging his meat around, absolutely knocking everything about. And it did help that in that part of the story, characters actually were getting bodied a little bit. We lost Carolina Reaper. We lost Gaku. We lost Haruma. We lost Takamura. And Millie, I don't really like how Takamura was lost, but we had to knock some characters off the board. And by doing that, it makes the arc feel memorable, makes it feel real, it makes the stakes feel present, even if I know the stakes aren't ever really going to affect our main characters. Shin didn't take any permanent damage in the museum arc. Sakamoto didn't take any permanent damage in the museum arc. Nagamo didn't take any permanent damage in the museum arc. They were all fine. Our major, our real main trio, ironically enough, they didn't suffer at all really throughout the arc. They kind of just got amps and then took Takamura off the board. But, bada bing, bada boom, that's how you do it. At least make it feel like these characters have limits. Obviously, the biggest culprit of no limits is Shin himself. His abilities have been used to solve every single problem. Whether it be him acting, or not acting, achieving a sort of little narrative transcendence where he's able to see directly into the future 100% and having him body bag tank you, from him being able to use his abilities to command people on the fly, spontaneously developing that ability, the stop ability in order to save them against the new order when they were attacking them the first time, and then being able to use that same ability again on order members he had already used it on, such as Tanabata, showing that ultimately Suizen just forgot. Obviously, the introduction of Atari as a character, just as a whole, was also a case where Sugi Sensei just gave us a character that would break every bit of logic, and then of course we got to the tunnel effect, whether or not you think that's fine or not, based on the logic of Sakamotodays. Regardless, the character was introduced in order to remove stakes from the narrative, and did successfully remove stakes from the narrative. Nothing happened to Shin, and obviously going back into Shin himself, we have Shin 1v6ing the entire villain cast and not instantaneously dying. There was so much heavy concentration around Shin and his sort of invincibility. There's a reason I made one of the passwords during one of those reviews Immortal Deuteragonist, because it literally felt like he was indestructible in a way that he had never felt before. And notably, I get it, you make your Deuteragonist and all your major characters stronger than the narrative, but not that much stronger. Especially not when in the arc prior, he couldn't even damage Boiled. The same guy who was getting fodderized by start of series Slimamoto. You don't do it. You don't leap. And it all loops back to the lack of committing to a bit. The amount of times Shin said, I'm out of energy, I can't move, and then was doing crazy things the very next chapter. The amount of times where Shin's abilities were meant to be taxing and take a whole lot out of him, and then lock him out of the net for a little bit, and then he started doing crazy things again the very next chapter. It's just that idea that nothing, and I mean nothing, could stick for even a moment. No matter what, Shin always had to be doing something. No matter what, we have to keep introducing new characters. No matter what, we need to keep doing things, even though we haven't fleshed out anything just yet. Atari has been a character who has been fundamentally useless outside of her role of saving Shin. She has taught him nothing, and is now an active detriment to the narrative, just taking up panel space. Gozu, I almost called him Gazu. I was confused, Gaku and Gozu. But Gozu, really cool character. Love him, juicy, handsome, scrumptious, but still nothing but an ore farmer. Has done nothing of substance. Uzuki himself, I haven't even, that's great. You know how bad it is that I've gone throughout this entire video and not talked about Uzuki once? Uzuki's a terrible character. Not a terrible character. Let me not lie. Uzuki's a fantastic character. He's a horrible antagonist. I buy nothing of him. His narrative does not work within the context of the narrative itself. AKA, I'm supposed to care about the world going to nonsense, even though I don't care about this world, because all the civilians have been characterized as nothing but worthless, garbage, background, stupid characters. So why do I care about anything happening to them when I know nothing did actually happen to our main cast, who are the only characters that matter, including the civilians of our main cast, such as Ao and Hana. So you have a main villain who's very focused on doing something to the world when the world doesn't matter. Because we can't commit to a bit. We can't make the civilians actually likable or real or tangible characters that we actually feel bad for. No, they just gotta be background funny joke people. Because we gotta, you know, because nothing serious in Sakamoto days. And that's the issue. I'm feeling so lost. I'm feeling a bit lost in Sakamoto days because nothing is able to be found and stuck to. That's the core issue. That's the fundamental reason why I'm feeling like a lot of it's real mid recently. And I'm hoping that somehow Suzuki-sensei gets back on track. Hopefully, we get to see the rest of Nagamo versus Gaku. Or not Nagamo versus Gaku. Nagamo versus Oki. Please actually finish this fight unlike Nagamo versus Gaku. Please, I'm begging you, Suzuki-sensei. And just stick to a bit. You can set everything up, but just let's actually flesh out these fights and let me feel things again. But, of course, my 15 minutes are up. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, please do me a favor. And please, leave lost but not found. Yeah, see what I did there? Yeah. Instead of lost and found, lost but not found. Leave lost but not found in the comment section down below. Like, thank you so much for watching. Remember to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure make sure you hit that little notification bell so you don't miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, you can have a Page down below, you want me for as well as one a month. And things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. Also, now we can make member of the channel for as well as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Some perks include live reactions, here this exam to review, add reactions of all my videos, and if you become a $12 Patreon or $12 member, you can order whatever video you want. Also, the link to my co-finance section down below, and drop 5 videos a short video, 20 beats small video, or any beats at all. Any support is always greatly appreciated. Now, I'd like to thank you so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is that guy with the pencil, writing off. I would like to give a thank you to our sketch tier members: Eternal Flame, Red Wolf 4765, Astro, Glacier XZ, Zara, Brandon Payne, J2MA, Guillaume, Buddha Uda, Alex Kenny, Enzo, Plant Crone, G Prosper, Swift Strike, Striker Man, and Autumn Mornings Lazo, Kree Panem, Super Flame Zero, Yuki Ally, and Azo2404. Then, I'd like to give a thank you to our line art tier patrons: Sean, Midnight Lord 21, Kevin Encarnacion, Dread Zoan, A+A, and Victor Raji. And then, I'd like to give a thank you to our Ink tier members: Austin Wimberly, Auchia, and Shrimpo the Shrimp. With a long, juicy, thick, hefty thank you to our digital art tier members, J Warrior and AZ Void. And I'd like to give a thank you to our colored art tier patrons, Joaquin Munoz and Joaquin Munoz. With a final Ganshuin legendary super grundeliumptious thank you to our glorious, legendary, handsome, Kashimo Glazing King, Calvin Elder.